Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. It's a joy. Thank you to see you again. Welcome. My name is Maurizio Benazzo.
My name is Zaya Benazzo.
And we are speaking to you from the unceded territory of the Coast Pomo and the Costa Milwaukee and South Pomo. Indigenous people currently known as Sebastopol, California.
We tend to think sorry, the morning that's what we do.
Is 18 years of marriage does that to you, right? So thank you for being here with us.
And we are delighted to have Dr. Thema Bryant with us. Such a delightful guest, and what an honor to have you with us today. Welcome, Dr. Thema.
And I want to read a brief welcome, Dr. Thema.
Thank you so much. I am so excited, joyful to be with you all.
Thank you. I want to read a brief bio just to start with it. So Dr. Bryant is a tenured professor of psychology in the Graduate School of Education and Psychology at Pepperdine University and an ordained elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Dr. Thema Bryant was the 2023 president of the American Psychological Association, APA. Dr. Thema is the author of the recently released book, Matters of the Heart, which is awesome. And the host of the Homecoming podcast, So welcome. It's a joy to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your artistry, for your capacity and willingness to hold space, for the invitation, and for being who you are. I am delighted for us to come and weave together.
Thank you. And I know bio doesn't give justice. If anything else feels important for you to mention about yourself and the way you introduce yourself, please do so.
Sure. I am happy to add that along with being a healer, I am someone who has healed and continues to heal. I am the daughter of 2 ministers, and I am a mother of 2 by flesh, but many in terms of mentorship and teaching. And I am grateful to be at home with myself and hope to hold space in such a way where each of you can be the fullness of yourselves.
Oh. We feel that. Yes. Thank you for that invitation.
You're welcome.
Maybe before we begin with the questions and conversation, if you would like to invite us to here and now, and if you have any grounding practice or anything that you want to share with us.
Certainly. Spirit is calling me to a higher place of praise. Spirit is calling me to a higher place of praise. Healing is calling you to a higher place of praise. Healing is calling you to a higher place of praise. Wisdom is calling us to a higher place of praise. Wisdom is calling us to a higher place of praise. You are welcome and you are worthy. We are worthy of this space. We are worthy of love, worthy of community, worthy of our own sacredness and the capacity to see the sacred in each other. I practice body sovereignty, so everything I offer is by invitation, and I invite you to reflect when the invitation is made and decide if it is something you would like to do, and if you prefer not to do it, to honor yourself in that way. That is a part of our healing. And so I invite you, one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, inhaling in through your nose Exhaling out through your mouth. One hand on the heart, one hand on your forehead. Compassion hold two. Inhaling in through your nose. Exhale out through your mouth. Compassion hold three to embrace yourself. For some of us, it will be the first hug of the day. Inhaling in through your nose. Exhaling out through your mouth. You can shake it out if that feels good to you. And scan your body to notice any place that you're holding tension. For some of us, it's the forehead. For some, the neck or shoulders. For some, it may be your lower back. For some of us, it's the jaw. Wherever it is in your body, to send your breath, to send your intention, to send your love as a message to your body to come home, to find your breath, to find your ease, to find truth, and that truth being you are worthy of ease, of wholeness, and that in fact you already are whole, and we are here to remember. Inhaling in through the nose, exhaling out through your mouth. And we pause in gratitude for those who paved the way for you to be here today, whoever those persons are to you, that came before you, and as a result of their intention, their sacrifice, their love, their wisdom, you are here. And so we give thanks. We give thanks that we did not just arrive. And we are also mindful of the generations that will come after us and our commitment to doing what we can to create a world in which they can flourish. Inhaling in through your nose. Exhaling out through your mouth. And I will say Sawubona. Sawubona is a Zulu greeting, which means I see you. So whether your camera is off or on, I see you. And thank you for seeing me.
Sawubona.
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 I see you.
Yeah.
What a beautiful arrival. Thank you for this invitation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
In a world that is so agitated and so fractured, to know how to arrive within ourselves before we do or offer anything, that is a gift, that a practice and a gift.
Right.
Thank you.
That's right. So much trains us to be invisible and to not see each other. You know, we have that routine ritual of, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine.
Yeah, right.
And so to be present with compassion is a gift and a decision.
Yes, and that's truly seeing each other, not like, oh, I'm feeling tender. Oh, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. This is, and I see you. And
Thank you.
yeah, you're not alone, actually.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That you matter. Your presence matters in a very specific way in the moment, but also in the grander scheme of things, that you walking the earth, that matters.
Is a way to build relationship, is
Yes.
creating a instead of just confirming our individuality. It's me. How are you? Fine. Because I don't even listen.
Right.
Because
Don't
if you
see
tell
me.
me you're not fine, what do you mean not fine? I don't give a
Yes.
beep.
Yes. Right.
I am out of here. You
It's
have to
that,
be
yeah.
fine,
It is
okay?
that teaching of like, I don't want to be a burden, so I will give
Right.
you a
Yes.
script, which
Yeah.
keeps us from relationship, and
Yeah.
relationship is healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or for many of us that are involved in things in the world, like, oh, this is important, and I can abandon myself to be of service, but then how can I be of service if
Yeah.
I'm not at home here, right?
Absolutely. That we can also think about the importance of wholeness and wellness for healers, for parents who are often told that if you're doing it right, you erase yourself for everyone else.
Yes.
And, I like to say it's just unsustainable that
Mhm.
if you want to be a world changer, like if we could fix everything wrong with the world in the next month, I would say, okay, like forget about yourself, right? Like, let's get it done. Let's get it done. By November, we'll all be free. But unfortunately, this is a long-term project. It's a lifelong project. And so to be sustainable and also to be human, for us to give ourselves the care that we so desperately desire for others to have.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's not even a lifelong, it's a generational
Right.
project.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
generational project. It started way before us, and
Uh-huh.
way
Will
before us.
continue long after
Uh-huh.
us,
Yeah,
sending
because
it
this
into the
idea
future.
of individuality connected to our body, when I die,
Yes.
it's over. No,
I
no, no,
don't
no.
know.
We are
Uh-huh.
part of a long chain
That's it.
of
That's it.
creature, of
And
lives, of
relationships.
relationship. Is not.
Well, I guess that's going to be our first
Yes.
question. If we have formulated the question, this is so
Yeah.
much nicer, actually. Well, we know that trauma is individual, but it's also not individual. It's
Mhm.
intergenerational, it's
That's right.
collective, it's historical.
Yes.
How do you, in your healing work, navigate those dimensions so we don't
Mhm.
bypass
Yeah.
the individual, but we know it's never individual.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So a part of it is, I would say, as a therapist, asking those questions to get the generational story, to know that the story doesn't begin with your birthday.
Yeah.
And so we inherit, the gift is we don't just inherit ancestral wounds, but we also inherit ancestral wisdom. And so discovering the story told and untold that has shaped our reality. So when we look at the intergenerational transmission of trauma, like how does it come to us? A part of that is biological, neurological, that trauma shifts the brain, shifts the nervous system. And we can see through our science the ways in which that gets passed on. But we also know we can break that cycle, and that a healed nervous system can also shift our biology, and we can pass that on. It is not only physical, but a part of the ways in which we inherit the trauma is by observation. So, how did you see the people who raised you navigating space?
Mhm.
How did you see them respond? How did you see them responded to? All of those teach us lessons. Sometimes it wasn't direct, it was what we saw and what we felt in those spaces. So if you are raised by a survivor of enslavement, of genocide, of Holocaust, if you are raised by survivors of intimate partner violence, survivors of molestation, it shows up in what they modeled for you. And then we also get that transmission of trauma by their direct teaching. What did they tell you? And often what they told us was their own survival strategy. And so sometimes that survival strategy is don't trust anyone. Sometimes that survival strategy is always to emotionally mask. Sometimes that survival strategy is that you have to be excellent at all times. And often that variation we don't see. We see the impact of trauma when it looks like people have become undone, but we don't see it when it is covered in busyness and excellence and productivity, in chasing safety and security. And so that's it, in that therapeutic role, beginning to uncover those generations and that wounding. In my ministry work, it is with the storytelling. And that's also a part of, that therapeutic space, because so many things we were taught to keep silent. And there is a gift in shattering silence, in shattering shame, in, we would call it narrative therapy. What is your story? But here's the key: for us to become central in our story instead of remaining in the margins of our story. Now, that's challenging if you live in a society that has marginalized you. And so to survive, you may have learned to center other people and always to respond to them, to anticipate how they're going to see you or what are they going to think. And so to come home to myself for all of the censoring and adapting that my foreparents had to do, it is a radical revolutionary act for me to show up in truth, in the truth of who I am. Yeah.
So beautiful. And this is the healing that is, it's for me, but is also for my ancestors that
That's
couldn't
right.
do that because they were maybe not safe enough. And
Yes. And
that's
important to think about the things they did do, right? To survive and to heal. Many times we can easily see perhaps the dysfunction of the generations before us, but to also see what we would call the resistance, the ways in which they survived. I can honor that without needing to repeat all of it.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yes. Honor the ways without repeating.
Yeah, of how we made it.
Yes, because by rejecting it, we reject parts of ourselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so many of the therapeutic approaches, models are based on Western, white, Eurocentric assumptions about the mind, the self, the heart, the soul. How do this framework are short intending to what's ancestral, what is intergenerational, collective, ecological as well, because we are also made of more than human relationality. And
That's right.
yes.
That's right. So both intergenerational, ancestral, and spiritual. And both of those things often get left out when we talk about healing, wellness, wholeness, and it is systemic and structurally left out. So how does that look? When people come in for mental health services, we start at it with an intake. And then in intake are those initial meetings where you ask questions to get to know who you're talking to. And then from the intake, you come up with they call it a case formulation. So your understanding of what's going on with this person. And then based on that, you come up with a quote unquote treatment plan. And then you work on that plan. So what happens if none of my questions at the intake are about your family history, your cultural history? What happens if I never ask you about your spirituality or about your faith or about your religion? If I don't ask it, I have sent you the message for you not to bring that up because this isn't the place for that. And so now it is not in my formulation. It is not in my understanding of you. And then it's definitely not in the plan because I don't even know what to do with it if it was in the plan. And
Right.
so then what we are offering is half healing. And there is something to be said for partial healing. It can bring some relief,
Yeah.
but it is not the totality of the person. And so we have to expand and deepen so that we don't require people leave parts of themselves out of their own process.
Yeah. And how, I don't like how questions, but maybe
He
tell us
leads one. Yeah.
brief.
Yeah. Like, for example, maybe a moment in which you found yourself in front of the protocol and you decided to honor instead the story, the ceremony, your intuition. And
Yes.
what happened? What became possible?
Yes.
Share.
Well, one example is when I was going through training, which becomes it's a challenging position for persons who are students or interns who show up with lived wisdom, but they're supposed to be learning a protocol.
Right.
And there is something to be said for for what you're going to learn, like the theories, the interventions. Those are all can be, some of them are helpful, but there are also some things that that are not yet in the book. And so I can remember I was, as a graduate student, a part of an intervention that was with quote unquote at risk African American children and their families. And this was this large multi-year study. They had like these $1 million grants, all of that. And they were doing groups with the boys, and I'm sitting there. So everyone in the group are Black boys and their parents. I'm there as like the assistant facilitator. The facilitator is a white male psychologist, very senior in the field. And we have this manual. And he's reading from this manual and says to the boys that if someone is bullying them or trying to hurt them, that they're supposed to say, "Please stop. You're humiliating me." Oh, no. Oh, no. No. "Please stop. You're humiliating me," is the script. And so immediately when he says this, all of the Black parents turn and look at me. They're like, are you going to co-sign this? Are you like, is this the program? Now, what we didn't say in the introduction, I grew up in Baltimore. And in Baltimore, that's not a sentence you would want to say, "You're humiliating me." One, would the person even know, would the kid even know what you're talking about? And two, if they did, it's likely it was their intention to humiliate you. And so, this, you said when protocol meets life, and so to make sense of the generational wisdom in the room, while still protecting my status as a student intern, I said, well, if you're talking to a kid who has been in this program, maybe you might want to say that to someone who's a part of this group, but let's open it up to the parents and find out what are some strategies that work for you when people wanted to fight you. Right? So let's get out of this book. We have a circle of wisdom here, and this is not written for us in mind. So many moments like that of coming to recognize the need for the interweaving of what this protocol says and what we know because we have lived it.
I love that you said is not yet in the book instead of saying has been erased by the book.
Yes.
I love that you have this this, you know, it's a
Right.
different study. Not yet
Because
in the book,
not yet in the book.
instead of
And
being.
the gift is for us to continue to write. That's the gift of us doing the work, as opposed to just saying like, well, this isn't for us. It is, we make it for us, you know, that there are cultural adaptations, which means that you modify it or shift it to try to make it work for a group. But then there are also healing approaches that emerge from community. And so for us to honor that and to recognize that and to document it, Annalise Singh and others, Dr. Annalise Singh and others talk about decolonizing the curriculum. And this is necessary, sacred work.
Yeah, this word decolonizing is used a lot, and I'm just wondering, what does it mean to you? Do you use it? Many
Yes.
of the indigenous communities we visited, they don't like to center the colonial aspect.
Uh-huh.
They like,
Yes.
we want to indigenize. We're enough of, but
Yes.
again, different contexts within
Right.
which there is place for decolonizing. Absolutely.
Yes. So thank you so much for the question. When I was president of the American Psychological Association 2023, one of my initiatives was on decolonial and liberation psychology.
Yeah.
And I think it is important to consider, what are we deconstructing, but that's not the end of the story. Then it's, what are we building? Right? So we say like indigenizing or liberation or womanist. That is the creating part. And a part of how we clear the ground to create it is the decolonial work. Because to say I'm going to create it and just ignore that, that works if you're not operating in systems that are dominated by it. But if you're in the education system, if you're in the medical arena, there is a system that's in place. And so then we have to
Colonial.
address that. Yes, we
Yes.
have to address that. But I agree that that's not the end of our story. We are not just to be in reaction or in response or on the defense. That is, you know, then we want to create. Eve Ensler, who did the vagina monologues, she said, all of the energy that women spend healing from the violence that is done to us, imagine if we had that energy back, what we could write, what we could create, what we could build. And that is the same when we think about Indigenous persons, that a lot gets spent on self-preservation and pushing back, but there is so much more to be done when we are free to bloom, to flourish, to create, to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And decolonize it, because Western approach is like, oh, let's treat addiction, let's treat suicide. And these are symptoms, right? That are, instead of that, focusing on the symptoms, really looking the root. Where did this start?
Yeah.
And I want to say, along with you all's the name of your organization around the non-duality, that I also don't believe in the false choice where people will say it's not self-care, it's community care, or we don't need therapy, we need social justice. People
Yes.
create it like it's an either or. Like if I go and protest, that alone will deal with my panic attacks. Now, I also don't believe mindfulness alone is going to address justice, but I think we, as you all promote, have to go into that non-duality of all of the different streams we need to utilize and embody because some people in activist spaces have been shamed about taking care of their own mental health.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that is robbery.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially at this very moment when we're witnessing genocide in Gaza, genocide in Sudan. Many of the activists that are involved feel like, okay, I don't deserve well-being, or I don't deserve what is even well-being in the middle of genocide when our brothers and sisters are being killed. So that's a complex ground to, and I don't like the word complex, but it's multi-layered. So there are no simple answers.
That's right.
Yet, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, what does it healing mean when we see live stream genocide on our screens?
Yeah. So one of the ways, people have framed this as opposed to post-trauma is ongoing trauma, right? So when the term post-traumatic stress was developed, it was developed with veterans in mind, or at that point, enlisted persons. So they go to fight, and then when they come back, we give them care. So what does it mean, when the trauma is ongoing? It's a very different experience if I'm providing care for someone who has escaped an abusive relationship versus someone who's still living with their abuser. Both we can provide care for, but it's a different arena, yes. And so I think the piece about well-being or mental health for change agents or advocates or activists, gets at your point about this not even just being a lifelong project, it's a generational project. So when I hold that in my mind to actually raise for people's awareness, if I am not allowed to have any joy as long as anyone on the planet is suffering, I will never have joy a day of my life.
Yes.
Right? We won't. It's like someone somewhere is suffering. Many people, many people. So it becomes the balancing act of not having a cluelessness or a denial or a minimizing, while I am also honoring the sacredness of this life, right? The sacredness of this moment. And also, if we think about our joy or our rest or our pleasure as acts of resistance, because various types of oppression are interwoven, are intersecting, and they are intentional. And they are intentional to dehumanize not only the direct targets, but to dehumanize and leave everyone in a place of hopelessness and powerlessness.
Yes.
So then if I embrace that I must live the rest of my life with no love, no joy, no softness, no rest, in thinking that's in solidarity,
Yes.
then I am actually in alignment with my own dehumanization. And I refuse to cooperate with my dehumanization.
Faultless. When we were in 2021, when we were in Palestine filming Where Olive Trees Weep, we received, people were laughing. It was appalling. And then somebody told us, we asked, how do you, and they said, between two martyrs' funeral, you celebrate.
We celebrate life.
We celebrate life. And he was like, so
yes,
always.
yes. That it is. It is a way of, carving out our humanity. I love the arts. So I have loved seeing the footage in Gaza of people dancing with the kids, teaching the kids dance and singing and storytelling. So that's a part of the wave of it. One of the examples that comes to mind for me in the US is when we know the realities of voter suppression and voter suppression, particularly targeting Black and Brown communities. And I want to say this was in Philadelphia, where they had uh, systematically closed many of the voting stations in the African American community, which meant the ones that were still open had these super long lines. So, I don't know if where we are in California or where I am, the line is pretty short. Like I can go and vote. It's not a hardship. There are other places where, it is by design for you to give up. And so they're showing this footage and, this news story of how outrageous it is, people having to leave work and being on these lines. And in the middle of all of this, say suppression, oppression, erasure, silencing, someone showed up with a radio. And the people in line started dancing. I mean, they were.
I remember it.
No, right? And it's don't you know you're being oppressed? So we need that. We need that. Both those who are witnessing and those who are in it, as it's a defiance of our joy.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yes.
Let's not take our joy from us.
Yes.
Yeah. And another aspect of kind of Western psychotherapeutic approach is to distress or grief to be needed to be cured. And traveling and meeting a lot of Indigenous communities, the way they work with grief and how grief is held in community, and that seems like, again, a big loss, collective loss. In the Eternal Song, in our film, one of the elders says, those who came from Europe came from place where grief was banned. Imagine having to suppress all that grief, arriving here, that got passed and imposed on the Indigenous people of this land.
Yes.
If you can say something about grief and not
Absolutely.
pathologizing grief as well.
I am grateful for the call and the invitation to talk about grief, as I just last week met the 1 year anniversary of my mom's transition to light. And I honor her. And to meet me is to meet her. To hear me is to hear her. And so I am very much Reverend C's daughter. And I'm grateful. One of the ways in which I feel her presence is in dancing. And so whenever I dance, she shows up with me and in me. But to speak to your point, last Friday on the, anniversary, I, put a post up online in honor of her. And then I put a second post the next day. And by the time I put the third post, my phone was blowing up of people very concerned about me. Like I must not be okay because I'm celebrating my mother, right? So that is the context we're in, where if you are, that memory is dysfunction, right? That to remember they were okay with one post. It's like, oh, no, you're going to talk about her. It's like, you're going to do it again. You're going to do it. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it again. But I think about, even so I'm African American, but I lived in Liberia, West Africa for 2 years of high school. And I can remember at funerals there, people would wail and weep and lay in the floor. And if you didn't do that, people would talk about you. It meant you didn't love them. And here it's the opposite, that you are to be very composed. And if you're too much emotion, take them out, or they're just trying to get attention, or, all those things. And so we amplify that when we think about, I'll say both 9/11 and the pandemic, the lack of collective grief spaces right? The message was, we're not going to let them win. So go out and go shopping or just go on with your days. Or, of course, what happened here with the pandemic is to this day, people who deny the numbers, right? So that's a way I don't have to grieve it, is just believe it's made up, right? Like, oh, it's not true. That, like that, it's unfathomable, because if it were true, then what? Right? And so learning how to grieve, and the ways in which grief can disconnect us, as opposed to it being this thing that pulls us together. When we're in these spaces with their judgment and timeline around grief, it can cause people to be disconnected or to perform for each other.
Yeah. There is our friend Francis Weller. We went to an event with him last week, and he basically said very clearly, grief and joy are two poles of the same. If you don't let go into the grief, you will never be able to experience joy, because
Yeah.
You cannot be one without the other.
they're two poles of the same, right?
The more we grieve, the more we have
The more we have space for
joy.
joy.
Beautiful. It's, some people call it either toxic positivity or toxic spirituality, where there's only room for gratitude, for like, well, you should be grateful. You should just be grateful. And it's like, I'm grateful and I'm grieving.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, thank you. That is toxic. Yes, that's leaving ourselves behind, parts of ourselves behind.
That's right.
Pathologizing the grief, or
yes.
Spiritual bypassing.
Yeah, and a lot of times we get pressed for that. That if you're, it's like a wisdom, a truth can get over applied, right? So, there's the concept of disengagement, not being caught up in things, that being so attached is what creates suffering. But then when that gets over applied, then I have actually disconnected from my humanity. Yes. Right? That I feel nothing for nothing, because I don't allow myself to, because I'm trying to protect myself from feeling, trying to protect myself from disappointment, from grief. So now I just walk through the world disconnected, but spiritualize that, right? Or, the press to make people like hurry up and forgive, right? You just need to, and this especially happens to minoritized groups. Because people are so nervous about our outrage that they, pick someone from the community to come forward and tell people, don't be mad, forgive, right? Without even allowing space for it. I see this also, violence against women, where, there's this languaging around women who are quote unquote angry or have an attitude, with no care or questioning of where did the quote unquote attitude or outrage come from, right? That we're more upset with the emotions of the victimized than the thing they are grieving.
And pathologizing the emotions. And I think you speak also about sacred rage, like, and I'm curious, yes, rage and anger is sacred for myself, but when do I know that my anger might not be sacred?
Yes.
Like, how do we distinguish?
Sure.
That I have been, without like diminishing this, why the anger is there. Like,
yes. Absolutely. So one, I want to give a shout out. A person who has written and presented a lot on this is Dr. Jennifer Milan. But then prior to that, in my trauma training, was the work of Dr. Judith Herman around anger. And the way she frames it is constructive anger or destructive anger. So, I start from the standpoint of, it is healthy to be outraged about outrageous things. That's a healthy response. Some outrageous things have happened, So if outrageous things are happening and you feel nothing, well, then that's some dysfunction, right? There's something going on there. So it's healthy to be outraged about outrageous things, but then Judith Herman would say, like, kind of, and so what do you do with that?
Yeah.
So, constructive anger is often what has motivated change agents, that I'm upset about what's happening in our community, so I started Neighborhood Watch. Or I'm angry that this happened to me, and that's why I became a rape crisis counselor. Or so it can motivate my action, or motivate me to seek justice or whatever those things are, versus I'm angry about what happened. And so I'm taking it out on my loved ones. I spend my whole life seeking revenge. I am consumed by it and stuck by it. So then it's also eating me up. So, now we would say we're not in a healthy place, that I'm actually, when people say I'm giving myself poison, right? So it is a healthy response, it's a human response, because often when I don't have room for anger, some of the research around women in autoimmune disease with suppressed anger, right? That I'm not allowed to express it, so I'm holding it in, and now, like, that's eating me up. So it becomes not should I ever feel it, is how do I express it? How do I not turn it in on myself? How do I not displace it? Right? Because a lot of times, who we are, often we can't approach the people who actually harmed us. So we end up hurting the people who love us.
Oof.
Right? And that's a painful, painful reality.
Yeah. Especially intergenerational.
Yes.
Because the
Yeah.
people who harm us could come, yeah,
Right.
from
Right.
entirely.
Yeah.
Oof.
I
That was-
remember I used to, one of the universities I used to work at, I was responsible for addressing sexual harassment there. And a student wanted to make a complaint. So she came to meet with me first because I coordinated the office. So then I went with her to the dean to file her complaint. And when the student left the room, the dean said, she really has a chip on her shoulder. And I was like, what? That what I have found with a lot of humans, we're comfortable, I'm saying especially for women, we're comfortable with sadness, but never their anger. So I think if the student had been there weeping and looking delicate,
I see what
then
you
the
mean.
dean would have been like,
I
oh,
see what
let
you
me
mean.
comfort you. But this young lady was angry because she was being stalked. All these things were happening, and she was mad about it. And so, we want to think for ourselves, whose anger do I allow and who is not allowed to be angry?
Yeah.
Whoa, that was beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say that to our students as well who are training to be therapists, because often healers are, like myself, are tender-hearted. And so when you're tender-hearted, you may more naturally be comfortable with people's grief and sadness, but not have developed the capacity to sit with people's anger. And it's really important that we develop that emotional muscle instead of trying to suppress it or shame it, to let people express where they are.
Yeah.
Oof, that's so difficult.
And start with children early.
Yes.
Don't,
Yes.
let them
What do you
express.
do with
What
that?
do you do?
Yeah.
How do you hold your child's anger?
Right. Yeah. The sentence I often heard, some people have heard it out of my community, but in my community, what I heard a lot growing up was this phrase, fix your face.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what they would say to kids if you're looking sad or mad, because you're supposed to look pleasant, grateful, like a child. A child is not supposed to look,
Oh,
they're not supposed to have an attitude. So be like, just you didn't say anything disrespectful, but if your face is looking a certain way, they'll say, fix your face.
fix your face.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
So then we grow up as adults, and then adults don't even know what they're feeling. So I'll have clients who are clearly mad, and I'll say, "Oh, so you're upset about that?" And they'll say, "No, I'm not mad." It's like, that's kind of what mad looks like.
How are you? Fine.
Care. That's the big one with teenagers, right? I don't care. It looks like you care. It really looks like you
yeah,
care.
yeah, yeah. The disconnect, yes.
Yes,
Puede.
yes.
Yeah,
And thank you, Lisa. True, of it being a survival technique that, many of our parents grew up in spaces where it was not safe to express what you feel.
Yeah.
So they're like, so how dare you, you know, show all those feelings, move on.
yeah.
Mm.
Maybe just one question, last question, and then we can open to our community to bring your questions. You can type them in the chat or in the Q&A. We already have some questions
Q&A,
in.
yeah, we
Okay,
didn't look for
yes,
it
we're
yet,
going
sorry.
into that next. Just last question. We more and more we understand the importance of community and how we heal in community, how so for those of us who might not have a community, where do we begin to create one, and one that doesn't replicate the structures of injustice or harm? What
Yes,
would you
beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful. So the first suggestion I'd make to people is to perhaps try to deepen the relationships you have. Because sometimes we have these superficial connections where people might go to brunch, or they talk but don't like talk from the heart. And what I have found is transparency is contagious. So, like, we all have that friend that'll say whatever. And usually, if you're in the presence of that kind of friend, you'll find yourself talking more freely too, right? Because, like, oh, we're leaving the script. So, if we're all like, I'm fine, I'm good, what's going on? Nothing much. Like, if we're doing that, and then one person goes a little deeper and says, well, actually, I'm disappointed because of this. Or actually, I've been feeling anxious because are you watching the news? Then people will meet them there. So sometimes people will say to me that they only have these like superficial or fake friends. And I invite them to think about the one who tries to go deeper and see. Some people aren't ready for it and don't want it, and that's fine. Now you'll know. But there are some people who are waiting for an invitation to be real.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another piece is going to events or spaces that are in alignment with your interest. So, I love poetry. If I go to a spoken word coffee house, then like I already know my kind of people are there, even if I don't know them yet. So whether it is an activist space where people who are committed to the same issues as you, or a joy bringer space, something you enjoy doing and finding connection there. And then we also have online. And I know sometimes people will, put down online connections, but depending on where you live, you might be in a space where there are not a lot of like-minded people, or it's just been hard for you to make that connection. But online, you may be able to identify, and eventually, if they're close to you, even meet up with them in person. So our own emotional availability, that's one of the things I talk about in Matters of the Heart, is that if all of my relationships are one-sided, if I feel like I'm just always surrounded by selfish people, or I feel like nobody gets it, but like that's my script for everybody, it may be time to look inward, that there may be a way in which I'm co-creating that dynamic of surface connections. And so to deepen our own emotional availability.
I love that. I love that. Deepen our relationships right
Yeah.
now as they are.
Yes.
Yeah, begin there. Beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you. We
You're
have
welcome.
So many
many.
good
Thank you.
questions.
This is such a conversation, and we covered
Oh,
so
I loved it.
much.
Yeah, it's like it's coming in.
So if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand and we can bring you on screen. It's always nice to see a face and
Look,
hear a voice.
Alex, I was reading this question and I really liked it.
Yes, hold on one
The
second.
second, Alex.
Let's bring Alex.
Alex,
Yes,
come in.
Hey, hello everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Zaya, Thema, Maurizio. It's such a joy to be in your presence, and yeah. And so my question that I put online is in this beautiful movie that I saw, The Eternal Song, I heard somebody say, speak from the heart and say, only colonized people colonize people. And so I am aware that my body is male. I'm white. I'm from the Netherlands. And instead of bringing in something from myself, my question is, what is a good question for me to ask right now?
Thank you. Thank you. Ah, that's good. Okay, just got it. A good question for you is, what are the ways I have been in bondage in my privileged identities?
Mhm.
What are the ways that those have been harmful to me, right? To yourself. And what I would say to that is, when you are a person with power and privilege in a space, it often teaches you to disconnect from your own humanity or your own heart. It often teaches you not to see people fully. It often teaches you to not hold space for people's pain. So it's like when I share the story of like assault or domestic violence, sometimes people's trigger response is not all men, right? Instead of just sitting with the like, but there are plenty, right, who are doing harm, and let me hear that. And like that what would healing look like for me, meaning you, is that when I am free based on or connected to other people's silence and bondage, then I'm not fully free. And so, can I see the liberation of others as a gift to me instead of it taking away from me? That I will actually be enriched. My life will be richer, better when all of us are free.
How can I not but see it that way? Because what is left of privilege or position, I never felt that I was privileged.
Mhm.
It never aligned with me to feel that I am privileged because of all of this we're overlooking.
Yeah. And I think you're not alone in not seeing it, because we're told we're told it's a level playing field. So then what people will say is like, everything I have, I fought for and I worked for. So like,
Mm.
privilege doesn't erase hard work. It doesn't mean like that there aren't, efforts that were made, but it is, systemic and it's structural, it's institutional. So it's not something you had to do to make it happen. Just when you walk into a space, people's assumptions, right? And what gets rewarded. And I would say, this will be the last point of it, is using your privilege and power and status in responsible ways is important. Because what some people do once they become aware is they get stuck in guilt, which being stuck in guilt doesn't help anybody. It's like, then they're just like, oh, I just feel so bad. And it's like, well, let me recognize, I'll just give you a parallel. And when I lived in Liberia, West Africa, I was there with my family as African Americans. A civil war broke out, and my family and I were evacuated, with other Americans who were in the country. And that was a privilege, meaning I was rescued. I was able to get on that plane because of my citizenship, right? I didn't do anything to earn it, to earn protection, and I could just get on it. So I could then, at that point, I was, like, I don't know, 17 years old. I could spend my life feeling terrible that some girls weren't rescued and I was, right? I could just feel guilty about that. Or I could say, I want to live my life with a sense of responsibility because I did get on that plane, right? Like that I want to do something with that. So that's what I would offer to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
We want to read, sorry. Yeah, you want to read the question? I want to read the question from Khalid Barakat. The Yazidi people have experienced genocide and intergenerational trauma, and often within a context of cultural and religious persecution. How can communities like the Yazidis begin to move from collective survival to collective healing in a decolonial framework? How can the children of Yazidi survivors be supported to process inherited trauma, especially when their parents are still struggling with their own recovery?
Yes. Thank you so much. And let me say, I am glad you are here. I am glad that your community is here. I am glad for you all outlasting and for your survival. And I appreciate your question because Dr. Maya Angelou says, surviving is necessary, but thriving is elegant.
Oh,
No, right? It's good to survive, right? We want to survive, but what will it mean as you're naming for the families and the children and the elders to flourish, to heal, to thrive? And so a part of the way that we do that is protection and advocating for their rights. So I appreciated the part of the question of how can people support? And it is important for there to be support for the remnants or the ongoing realities of oppression to combat that, and for it to not be you all just fighting that alone. And then to facilitate safe spaces for the storytelling, for the truth telling, for the kids, but also for the adults to be able to tell their stories. And that can be facilitated just in community gatherings and collective gatherings in homes to talk about what we experienced and the ways in which we made it. Using culture, I love this phrase from, Indigenous perspective, that culture is medicine, right? So then if I recognize culture is medicine, teaching the children their culture, and that's the things the adults do know something about, right? So that there is more to us than what has been done to us. And to understand like our stories, our artwork, our spirituality, like this is who we are, not just what we experienced. And that then leaves space for us to not just talk about coping strategies, which we know like the journaling or talking, those are coping, but resistance and then post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth, it helps us to think about what are the ways that I can flourish in the aftermath of this. So some of those key principles are deepening my relationships, deepening my spirituality, a greater recognition of my own strength, and an appreciation for life. And so to be intentional about our growing, not just our surviving.
Oh, beautiful. Before we bring someone else live, our friend Netta from Palestine, and I ask her if she can come live, but probably not. How would you define healing? You define healing.
Yes. I will define healing as holistic freedom. So when I am free in my mind, in my body, in my heart, in my spirit, in my relationships, I have healed and I am healing. I also would define healing as being able to see the fullness of my story with grace and compassion and a sense that the rest of my story can be written by me and those who love me. Yeah.
Yeah. And perhaps under ongoing genocide, it's hard to perhaps even, or not. Is it possible to talk about healing in the middle of?
So then this would be and I want to appreciate you being present, and we can consider what are the aspects of healing. So it would be inaccurate for us to say a part of healing is healing in your body while your body is being subjugated. So then it is irresponsible to say, so you need to heal, right? What we would say is a part of that process, an integral part of that process, is that every effort, every system, every institution that is designed and constructed to keep you bound needs to be removed.
Yeah.
Every system, every structure, every government that is designed to keep you bound needs to be removed for, I would say, the fullness of healing. But how can I have healing with ongoing trauma? I would say it will be partial. And the partial is emotional and spiritual. So emotionally and spiritually tuning into the truth of your worthiness, of your sacredness, of your humanity. So there may be displacement, there may be grief, there may be threats to your very physical being, but our soul can be healed in recognizing I am sacred despite it all. Now, is that sufficient? No. I would say you and all of us deserve the fullness of healing. And while we are awaiting and working for that, for your heart, for your mind, for your soul, to breathe in the truth that even though you are not being treated like it, you are worthy, worthy of safety, worthy of care, worthy of love, worthy of justice, and you are not alone. That there are a great cloud of witnesses around the world who are crying out your worthiness.
Oof.
Thank you. Thank you for this. I think
Medicine.
that's medicine. Our world is, this is the medicine we need at this moment. So
You are
powerful. Let's hear from Thema Bryant.
Good afternoon. I apologize for not being on camera. I just saw about this 15 minutes before it started, and I'm still comfortably in my robe. But first of all, thank you for just being here and being so intentional and thoughtful in your responses and what you share with us. I really receive and appreciate that. My question was around the idea of collective healing. So I've been just looking at everything going on and seeing that we can sustain collective trauma. And I'm wondering if healing can happen on that same scale in that same way.
Yes. So one, I'm so glad that you saw this and that you got on, and no need for the camera at all. I see you. I see you.
I see you.
So in terms of collective healing, yes, it is possible. And when we think about liberation, I think it is easier for us to think about what does a free person look like as opposed to a free people. And so for us to, liberation psychology calls for our imagination. So for us to imagine what will it look like when our communities are free, and then begin working on the manifestation of those dreams and visions. And so it is relational. How will we be with each other? What we can build with each other? What does a community that is whole and healed and free look like? There's play, right? And many of us are in communities where kids can't go outside and play,
Yeah.
right? That there is love across the gender spectrum, as opposed to women putting down men and men putting down women, and non-binary not being acknowledged. And so what does it look like? What does even our creative space look like? What do our schools look like when we are whole, healed, and free? And that, I like to say, oppression, marginalization, colonization are interdisciplinary. They attack us on every level. Likewise, liberation has to be interdisciplinary. So, there's liberation medicine, liberation psychology, liberation theology, which is the mother of all of these liberation movements. It came first. And so, yes, it is a colonial standpoint that can imagine an individualized liberation that's disconnected from the rest of the world, right? So yes, we can work toward and actually embody collective healing and liberation.
Thank you. So it sounds like some imagination and kind of co-creation amongst us.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And so that's an important part too. Be wary of hierarchy when people say this is the way.
Yes.
The humility of this is one of the ways. So like me working in mental health is one of the ways, but I would dare not talk, against people who say the path is through education. Well, wonderful. You do your work in education. And some people will say it's parenting. We got to raise liberated kids. Do that. So that's the beauty of it, is whatever lane we're in. I have another book with Dr. Edith Arrington called The Anti-Racism Handbook. And in that handbook, we talk about knowing your sphere of influence. And whatever your sphere of influence is, that's where you do the work.
Got it. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm an artist, so I feel like it's
Yes,
absolutely what you're saying. Like there's different faces of a thing to attack from different
that's
perspectives.
right. And there's a term artivism. So using as activism, one, to either document what we see, so you can be an artist that reflects the times, or you can be an artist that imagines for us what could be. And both of those are needed and necessary. Art is an integral part of the path to liberation.
Thank you. That just blessed me. Thank you.
Oh, good, good.
So many blessings. Thank you,
Thank you,
Kamari, for your
Kamari.
questions. So many wisdom. I'm going to read
Khaled?
Khaled's question. How can I maintain my sanity and my heart from stopping when I'm watching my people being slaughtered in a daily Holocaust every day? How can I keep my soul from not being consumed by rage towards those who are enabling it?
Yes, yes. So I would say, before we try to stop anything emotionally, before you try to stop it, I would first want to say how beautiful it is that you still feel. That is a gift that the truth is sometimes people harden and sometimes people disconnect and check out. And I know when you're overwhelmed with feeling, you may feel like, I wish I could. But I want to honor the depth of your feeling is the depth of your love, right? And the depth of your outrage is the depth of your clarity of the worthiness and humanity of your people. And so, as opposed to, I'm going to say, stopping it, I would offer expanding your emotional diary, expanding your daily ritual. So if the daily ritual is consuming death all day, because sometimes we feel like my way to honor is to watch it all. And that's that if I'm not watching death all day, then I'm dishonoring. And I want to offer to you that that's not true, that that's not the same as people who are in denial or people who are pretending it's not happening. And so to expand my heart is, one, to say, as a member of the community, I too am deserving of care, that I too am deserving of softness, that I too am deserving of love in my life, of some lightness in my day. And symbolically, as I desire to give it to them, I also will give it to me in the present. So it is almost a sacrament, a sacred spiritual offering for my community who may not in this moment be able to lay in a bed, that I lay down. So instead of like I have to now sleep outside to be in solidarity with them, I get to rest in this, not from a place of guilt, but as a reminder to my very soul that this is what all of us are deserving of. And I would say around the anger, is what we spoke to earlier, the outrage is understandable. And what we learned from like narrative or even Indigenous is I want to be intentional that those who seek to dehumanize me don't become the center of my story. So I don't want to wake with them first on my mind. I don't want to go to sleep with them last on my mind. And so I choose, it's like when there are those serial killers or those mass killers who have like the manifesto and the media is making the decision of like, do we read this? Like, do we give you the whole life story of them and center them? And more recently, the media was making the decision of like, let's highlight the victims, let's tell their story. And so I invite you to give yourself that same permission that I will choose to center the stories of my community instead of centering the stories of those who are dehumanizing.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Yes. This is again, I mean, your profound wisdom that our self-care is also collective care. It's not like self-care is not selfish. That's
Right.
also we've been made to believe.
One thing I want to add to that is I think we can feel the burden even more when we think no one else cares but me. And so to know that there are people who care. So to help with that, that urgency about it. And it is still urgent, but it's not an urgent thing that I carry alone. So when I carry it together, and so finding community of people who care, it helps to lighten the load.
Thank you, Dr. Thema. Wow.
Wow.
Your generosity and so much wisdom pouring and sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you. We probably have time for one more question.
Yeah, I loved it. You're always presenting it in a twisted way that makes it so simple and profoundly touching. And you just like make it in a way like, what? I didn't expect that angle. And it goes through. Yum.
What did you say? Be wary of like.
Yeah, of hierarchy when people think their way is the only way. It's just like if they're like, if you didn't march or you didn't post, and those are people who think marching and posting are the only
The
way.
only way.
Right? Or that's the righteous way. Well, that's your righteous way. Like someone else is doing it in their writing. Someone else is doing it through the therapeutic space. So I think a challenge we have is sometimes we get into policing each other.
Yeah.
And policing the movement where people can be as angry or more angry with people who are like-minded because they're doing it a different way.
Absolutely.
And I get it. It's our desire to find, control. And it's also our way of of comforting ourselves in our own righteousness, right? That if I decide all of you are unrighteous, then like, oh, but not me.
Yeah.
Oof, that's an amazing practice to work with. Yes. Okay, last question. Shall we hear from Sound World?
Sorry, Yarden. Sorry, Catherine. Sorry, Sean. Time is getting
Maybe
tight,
we'll
sorry.
squeeze.
Maybe we'll squeeze.
Hello.
Hello.
So, I've been pondering this question in the space of the elders that we have. The elders telling us what to do and what you do at the same time. And then coming from a good space, it could be something. And then when they are themselves expressing their trauma, and you try to address or touch it or get in their spiral, not feeling or feeling it to rudiment, feeling it in such obtuse ways that they don't even know what they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just being burnt by feeling and not feeling at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So my question seeps here. How do you what how do you navigate this edge of what to do and what you do in a conversation with someone, in a conversation with yourself?
Yes. So I'm going to repeat it back to you to make sure I'm getting it right, okay? Or you can clarify for me. Is it, what do I do when elders are telling me what to do, and some of what they're sharing feels accurate, but some of what they're sharing feels like it's coming out of their wounds?
At the same time, they know me, but they are also othering me. Even an elder does that in the process of they are not very well integrated in themselves, or even when they are integrated in themselves and they're coming, the edge between what to do and what you do, it just happens to be portrayed in language, even if they don't know they're doing it.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. So it is challenging because, I feel at the root of it, there is a care, a concern, perhaps even an honoring of them, but also a hurt, disappointment, frustration with the othering. And so feeling the tension between those. And in terms of what we do with that, part is relational, and then a part is within myself. So relationally, I think it is trying to feel out where.
Can I add just one line?
Yeah.
So, how do you create boundaries without othering?
Uh-huh. And tell me how you're thinking of the word othering. How to say it another way? Create boundaries without what?
It's my way to be in the world is to break my boundaries, to expand and bring other people in my field of, I would not say influence, but responsiveness.
Uh-huh.
And then how, so when I say othering and boundaries, I focus more on boundaries because I don't really
Okay.
hold the other that well. But
Yes.
I do understand the other.
Yes. Yes. So we can think about boundaries as a blessing and a gift not only to ourselves, but to other people. I think sometimes the way we have been raised, we think about boundaries as I'm doing something wrong, or that I'm rejecting, or that I'm disconnecting in a way that is problematic. So if we can expand it to think about that we are both collective beings and we are living souls within ourselves. And so there will be times for me to nourish within me, to preserve me, and that's not against anyone. It is simply an internal process. And then there will be times for the collective, for the community, for the conversation, so that while I will do both, I won't always do both at the same time. And that's okay. It's more than okay. It is sacred growth that I am growing. Some people will celebrate your growth, and some people will be bothered by it. And that's all right. Because if I need people's approval for my boundary, then it will never be set or never be enforced.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tim, and thank you, Sound, for your question. I know there is a lot more there, and we are at the end of our time, and I'm really sorry for not being able to address all the beautiful questions that you shared. Do you want to read the response from Khalid? Oh, it's buried now. Okay.
No, Khalid basically was super.
Had a beautiful gratitude.
Absolutely beautiful, Khaled.
Yes.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Thema, and bless you for your humanity and knowledge and kindness.
Thank you.
And we want to echo
Yes, we echo that for sure.
Deep gratitude for this medicine you shared with us, for your kindness, for your wisdom, generosity of heart.
And you do it with such openness and such a smile that makes the medicine, even the bitter medicine, taste way, way better the way you presented. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I have just been grateful and nourished by our time together, and I look forward to your next film and your next gathering, and just staying in community with you all, you too, as well as all of you who have gathered. So thank you.
And please,
Sound, I want to give one recommendation to Sound around the boundary resource, who actually I believe is still on here. Dr. Jaya John writes about the sacredness of boundaries. You can find him on Instagram, or you can take a look at his books. Jaya John.
Jaya John.
Thank you. Yeah. And of course, the book, your book, Matters of the Heart, that it's, I recommend to everyone. I listen in my car, and it's always brings me home, and allows tears that I didn't know I had to come.
I'm so grateful, and want you all to check out the Homecoming podcast on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And yes, the recording will be available to everyone, and you can share it with your friends. So we will let it continue ripple through our communities. So, and we have our next movie release coming up very soon. The next film is called Maori, and it's about Maori culture, Indigenous healing, resisting actually Western psychotherapeutic and psychiatric approaches to healing. It's very rich, and we welcome you to join us in theaters in California
or New Zealand.
Yes. And then online, October 14th.
And people are always saying, why do you misspell Maori? It's not misspell. It's the Maori means the vital essence of all beings, the life force in Maori. So anyway, but Thank you, Dr. Thema.
Oh, you are welcome.
Thank you.
And someone put my mom's name in the comments, so thank you.
Yes.
And
Oh, wow.
for the
Say
person-
again,
Can you say it?
Yes, Reverend Cecilia Bryant.
Reverend Cecilia Bryant.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Cecilia Bryant.
Mm.
Thank you.
Blessings, and thank you for weaving us together.
Yeah.
Ah,
Group
Yes.
hug.
Woo! A great way to spend a Saturday.